Alright, so I am coming off of Steam Next Fest, and after playing over a dozen demos, I am shocked about just how many games I was completely in the dark about. So now that I've done my homework, I'm going to catch you all up to speed on some incredibly underrated titles that are hopefully releasing this year. First up is Hauntii. Now as of writing this, the demo is still up on Steam, so I highly suggest trying it out. But just as a quick overview, you are playing as a ghost who is on an adventure to learn more about the afterlife and the backstory of how you got there. Now no exaggeration, this demo was incredible. Probably in the top 2 or 3 demos I played during Next Fest. The visual style is stunning, the gameplay of haunting stuff and having sort of a twin stick shooting ability was cool, and the soundtrack was unbelievable. The music in this game legitimately blew me away, and many of the cutscenes were that much more powerful because of it. I already had this game on my radar, but it just moved way up the list. Check it out on all platforms and Game Pass when it releases sometime later this year. Next is Children of the Sun. This is a puzzle game under the guise of a shooter, sort of like a super hot type experience. The gist is that you can control a single bullet that you can re-aim each time you kill a target. It starts simple at first, but then you quickly start to get all of these additional abilities that you have to use to strategically take everyone out. I think this is going to be a cult hit. There's a scoring system and leaderboard for each level, so that adds a bit of replayability and competition that I think a specific audience is going to love. I'll be honest, I didn't really care for the cult aspects of the game. Maybe the demo was just lacking in that aspect, but I really wasn't sold on the story that they were trying to tell. Regardless, the game was still a lot of fun, so watch out for a PC release sometime in the future. Okay, for my fellow PC and Steam Deck owners, I'm going to pitch Diceomancer to you. This game is a roguelike deck builder where you get opportunities to roll a dice that can change pretty much any number on the screen. Now I think that alone should make this worth the price of admission for my fellow roguelike fans, but there's more. This game features a charming hand-painted art style, and the gameplay is supported by a range of card types that seem like they open the door for a variety of sophisticated strategies. I personally like the idea of a little bit of RNG throwing chaos into a run, so I'm excited to try out the full game when it eventually drops on Steam. Many of you who watched the Game Awards might remember Tales of Kenzera Zau. It's a Metroidvania where you play as a boy who's on a journey to reclaim his father's spirit. I'm stoked to see a game with African mythology getting some attention, and I actually think this game has a great opportunity to seize that moment. The demo felt pretty good all around, but I think what stood out the most was how the abilities were being set up to be used in and out of combat. You were given 2 masks to swap between, and depending on the situation you can choose a mask for either ranged or melee based abilities. The flow of the action always felt fun and solid, and then when it transitioned to puzzles it felt equally as natural. The highlight for me was definitely the end of the demo where they gave me a cool way to exit the area with my newly acquired ice ability. I think this one is going to surprise a lot of people, so mark your calendars for its April 23rd release on all platforms. We're halfway through, but I promise the back half of this video is filled with bangers. Now before we get there, please remember to like the video, subscribe, and let me know you got this far by commenting your most anticipated indie of the year. Okay, I typically don't play scary games, but when you downgrade the graphics a couple generations, I guess I can make an exception. Mouthwashing is a narrative horror game surrounding a group of long haulers stranded on their ship in the middle of space. Right from the jump, you can tell this game is going to take joy in messing with your head, because just within the first 10 minutes of the demo it features trippy hallucinations and strange time skips. Now nothing stresses me out more than worrying about what's around the corner in a survival horror game, but the fact that this is not actually a survival horror game actually gives me some comfort in just experiencing the experience. The dialogue is pretty humorous at points, which I feel like helps balance out the completely messed up scenes you encounter in between, and although I enjoyed what I played, I think for this type of game it's really going to depend on if the complete story can come together narratively. Regardless, I highly recommend you play the demo just to understand why this game is called Mouthwashing. Keep an eye out for this one on PC sometime this year. #Blood was one of my favorite surprises of Next Fest. It is an action-adventure game about battling a legion of vampire-controlled undead that have invaded your town. It perfectly replicates that feeling of a classic 90s cartoon, and as someone who was born and grew up in the 90s, I can say this art and animation style is spot on. Another interesting twist is that even though the visual style is technically retro, the game world revolves around social media, hence the hashtag in the title. You get your quests through hashtags on your social media app, and characters often communicate through comment threads. Add in the shockingly bloody and violent action moments, and this game is working with a strong recipe for success. While I wasn't a huge fan of how the platform puzzles and combat felt at times, overall I really enjoyed my time with this demo, and it will be a must play when it releases for all platforms on June 18th. Balatro is what I would call a near perfect roguelike experience. I have the game, I've already put in over 10 hours, and I can't get enough. I plan to do an official review on can'tpause.com, but in short, this game is a balance of easy gameplay, high replayability, and large deck building opportunities. To catch you up to speed, it is a game where you get points for building poker hands. In each round you need to get a certain amount of points within a certain number of hands. Don't worry if you don't know poker, the game explains everything and ultimately you're just matching cards by color, suit, or number. As you continue to play, you unlock all sorts of cards that you can build around to create insane multipliers to make future rounds easier. Balatro is on all platforms right now, so if you're a fan of deck builders, don't think, just go play this demo and then go buy the game. I almost missed normal fishing, probably because of how normal it was and because nobody was talking about it, because everybody also thought it was normal, but I'm so glad I didn't miss it. I'm not going to spoil it, but there's a reason this completely normal fishing game about a guy trying to support himself and his completely normal wife as they just moved to a completely normal new town was one of my favorite completely normal demos of the week. All I'm going to say is, go in blind and just know if you're a fan of Daniel Mullins and games like Inscription, you're definitely not going to want to miss this one. The final title was not at Steam Next Fest, but it was one we recently got our first gameplay look at. No Rest for the Wicked is a top-down action RPG with a unique painterly visual style and brutal Souls-like difficulty. IGN recently got exclusive footage featuring a little exploration that ends with a boss fight, and this game looks wild. Not only is it aesthetically unique, very much in the same way that their previous project Ori was, but the game seems to be fully voice acted and the combat system looks to be extremely robust. For example, in the boss battle, you can see the character imbue his blade in fire for extra damage, which already looks awesome, but then he later hurls a bomb at the boss, which it engulfs it in flames. Obviously, this gameplay was just a fraction of the total experience, but so far, it looks like No Rest for the Wicked is shaping up to be one of the most premium indie experiences of the year. So hopefully after seeing all those games, you've come to realize we are staring down the barrel of an absolutely bonkers year for indies. Now I'm going to do my best to cover all the cool titles popping up, but until my next video, why don't you check out the other indies I'm looking forward to this year.